and we're going to take him to all the moms in our congregation here today. All right? As you go and sit down. Take one of each color, and whoever wants what. We'll figure it out. Yeah, you'll get your flower eventually. How many flowers does that mean? She gets 4 flowers for every child and grandchild. Okay, since it's Mother's Day, I think let's celebrate how to make a baby. There's a book in the Bible called Song of Solomon, and that's where we're at in the Word, in our in the Word reading, and it has some pretty surprising things that come up in it. I didn't grab the clicker. I'm sorry about that. Can I grab that? Yep. Thank you, Zach. It has some pretty surprising things in it. Thank you, brother. Thank you. About some pretty intense and intimate things. I think, at first, at least starts us off with at least it teaches us how to compliment women. Have you ever heard this? Let's look at it together. Okay, from Song of Solomon, chapter 4. This isn't working. There we go. We have this. It says, "How beautiful you are, my darling, how beautiful," which is a solid thing. You always want to make sure your woman knows that she's beautiful, right? Women say yes. You like that, right? Yeah, that's right. That needs to be a staple of anybody, even on a first date. This is appropriate at any time. You look beautiful. And it's appropriate across some pretty big lines. It's not just about dating. It's like, hey, you look beautiful, Mom. Yeah. Oh, and now it's working. Your eyes behind your veil are like doves. Now, I've never used that particular one before, but usually you use like a color or something like that, you know. Your eyes look beautiful. If they have white eyes, maybe use this one, but that's probably not an everyday occurrence where you come across someone like that. Okay, how about this one? Your hair is like the flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. Okay, because every man with even a little bit of riz knows that every woman loves nothing more than a good flock of goats comparison when mentioning her hair. Also, the famous hills, it's a nice touch on the end there. Famous hills. Your teeth are like a flock of newly shorn sheep coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, and not one of them is lost. A full set of teeth. You know this person's not from Kittitas, okay? That's what this is saying. Mom, I love you. You look beautiful. Your teeth are like, okay, that's too far. What's with the flocks of sheep and goats, right? I would say use this one cautiously. Once you tell a woman she has a mouth full of shorn sheep, she's surely to fall desperately in love with you. Make sure this is someone you want to fall in love with. Your lips are like a scarlet ribbon, and your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are a slice of pomegranate. Now, if flocks of goats and sheep are too forward for you, this is always a really nice fallback option. Your lips are like a scarlet ribbon. Okay, solid, okay? A little less aggressive. But your temples behind your veil are, did you know, statistics show that a woman, if they could change one part of their body in the world, statistics show almost 100% of women choose their temples to be changed. They wish their temples were different. I'm joking. I'm sorry. Tell Tell her that her temples are perfect. They look like a beautiful slice of pomegranate. Okay, this is only to be used. This is only to be used as a final pickup line. When you know you want to marry somebody, and this is like almost, it's so close to a proposal that you could probably use it for it. Here, your neck is like the Tower of David, built with rows of stones, and on it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors. This is what you want. This is how you, when you're a grandfather and your grandchildren are saying, "What did you say to grandma?" Where she fell in love with you. This is what, you want grandma's response to be, when he told me my neck looked like a tower of stones and there's shields all over it. That's what you want. Your breasts are like two fawns, like a twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Don't use this one on a first date, okay? A little too forward. Here's the thing, is that the Song of Solomon surprises us just when you think the Bible doesn't go there and God doesn't go there, and we think that, sex is something, over here to be talked about, and we don't really want to bring that into it. Here it is. Here it is, and we get a whole book about it. In fact, I had a teacher who acted out an entire, much more descriptive section of the Song of Solomon in front of our class. And he's sitting there with a bead of sweat on his brow, and he's leaning over and breathing, and he goes, "And that, my children, is in the Bible." While that moment was one of the most awkward times in school, of all times for me, it stuck with me, and I never forgot certain scenes of that, and they are burned into my memory forever. And I'm thankful because it's a reminder of the love that God has for you and I. That's what this is. While the pickup lines may sound a little different today than they did a long time ago, the reality and the impact needs to be the same. You see? I think sometimes we feel awkward because we think that when we talk about this stuff, sometimes the church has pushed so hard against the societal norms of either flippantly talking about sex or making it the all-important thing that sometimes we fall into the other ditch of saying it's dirty, it's disgusting, and we shouldn't talk about it. It's not that. Don't fall into the other ditch. It is something that is beautiful, not to be avoided and not to be talked about as dirty. We feel awkward, but here's the thing, is that God doesn't hold back, and I think that's the amazing part about this particular book. He doesn't hold back, and maybe we should talk about it too. Let's read in chapter 8, verses 5 through 7. Those are our verses for the day. Again, this is passionately expressing love, emotion, losing yourself together within the context of a committed relationship between a man and a woman. There is no other way to read about sex other than there is nothing outside those lines in the Bible. If we're coming from a biblical perspective and we are Christians oriented towards that, there's nothing outside of it. It has to be within there. But within these confines, we have something beautiful. It says this, verse 5 says, "Who is that coming from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved, Under the apple tree I awakened you. There your mother was in labor with you, and there she who bore you was in labor. And before I go on to the next verse, the setting of this actually comes from chapter 6, or 3, verse 6, and it's this idea of a wedding that just happened between probably the Shulamite woman, okay, and Solomon, which is what this story is actually about. He was married to only one woman for a long time. Did you know that, Solomon? And then he kind of falls off a cliff at the end, right? But for a long time, he has one love, and he's only set with that one person. And this is it. And then it says, under the apple tree I awakened you. This doesn't mean a physical waking up. If we look back into the previous verses, this is an excitement of the passions between a married couple. This is actually pointing back to their original wedding night, saying this is like what this is. Their desire for one another had not only been awakened, but it was starting to be fulfilled. And here we go. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death. Jealousy is fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of Yahweh. Many waters cannot quench love, and neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised. What is this saying? It's saying, look at the ideal relationship and what it actually looks like. And what it actually looks like within the context of not just physical love, but when, did you know that most problems with the physical part of love within a marriage situation has nothing to do with the physical love, it has to do with their relation. Their communication and their understanding of each other. And this is such a sensitive topic, but it's an important one. I think there's a lot of cultural arguments right now over certain things, and if we don't talk about it, it will be talked about. There's no way around that. And especially with our kids who are introduced to this at an incredibly young age. And if we don't talk about what a healthy version of this actually looks like, they will be taught by somebody. It's a guarantee. We cannot get away from this. While I don't have children, I still think that this is actually important, because how can the enemy destroy us? Well, he gets into this and he can ruin this intimate thing that is actually the ultimate depiction, okay, of what it means to have a close relationship. This is why Jesus gave us a clear view of what happens when we get distorted desires in the Sermon on the Mount. If we only had one thing in the entire Bible and we had the Sermon on the Mount and we could stick to the rules that Jesus gives us there, I think we'd be in a good spot, okay? Here we go. It says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in her heart, with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. And it's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to depart into hell. Okay, so I think we need to define lust here for just a second, and what he's actually saying in the beginning of it. Okay, anyone who lusts after a woman, just to talk a little bit of nerdiness in Greek, it's to look and to keep on looking. In other words, this is like the part of the stare. Okay, it's when someone violates somebody else by looking at them. Okay, it's the idea that we dehumanize somebody when we objectify them. When we look at them for something we can get out of them, and we do this in many ways, not just for sex, okay? But when we look at them with different eyes, as one that this is not no longer a child of God, but this is a person who has something I want and I can go take it for myself, okay? It's anti-love. It's looking at something, devaluing it. And Jesus directly points the finger at men, particularly in this culture, but I think it goes far beyond just men anymore, right? Especially this lust thing, We live in a day and an age where it is readily at our fingertips at any moment. And Jesus has some pretty intense things to say about how to deal with it. He talks about cutting off your hand or your eye. Anybody, any ideas on why he would go to such extremes, or why he talks about the hand or the eye? Any ideas? Yes?
Well, the eye is what you look at things with.
Yes, it's what you look at things with your eye, yep.
And your hand is what you do things with.
Yep, okay, yeah, that's right. And, were you going to say something, Mom?
No, just that if you look at or think about something enough, you eventually will do it.
Okay, yes, I think this is the whole point, okay? If you look at something enough, and if you don't turn away from it, you're going to go towards it. Okay? And the whole thing that Jesus is actually coming to over and over again, why he talks about the eye and the hand, is actually pointing back to Genesis. It says Eve saw the fruit on the tree, that it was good, and then she reached out and she took it with her hand. And so he's saying, now, as innocent as that feels in the moment, and as innocent as that fantasy feels and how much you actually want that, the reality is it can spiral your life out of control. And look, we're here today because someone did this exact action. Far better if you cut off your hand or gouge out your eye. I don't think we're talking literal. Don't follow the example of our early church father, Origen, right, who actually did these things. Okay, don't do that. But he's talking about the intensity at which you attack these things because it destroys your life and it destroys other people's lives. Guard against it. He's saying repent and turn away from it. Turn back towards life because this mental fantasy is actually going to bring death. It's easy to say that for all of us that the grass is greener on the other side. We talked about this on Thursday. The grass is always greener on the other side. We can look and see out there, oh, that's a nice pasture. The reality is grass is green where? Wherever you water it. This is where the grass turns green. It also gets the weeds out. Not on my lawn, though. He's saying that the problem actually isn't with everybody else, because that's what the men of the culture would do. They would actually blame the women, and this is why he talks about divorce afterwards, because it was very easy for a man to divorce his wife. If she made a bad meal, he could just divorce her, and then she was helpless. Pretty messed up. And so he's trying to right this power thing that men have over women, and he said, actually, look, it's not them that's the problem. It's a problem with your own heart, men, when you're looking at this. And now this goes, again, beyond men, in our culture especially. This goes to everybody. This is a problem within our own heart. It's not the fact that we live in a culture where people dress immodestly. Is that true? Sure. Can be. And I will say this, don't be a temptation to other people. If you know what's tempting to somebody, just don't do it. Don't be a stumbling block for them. That being said, that problem is still within our own hearts. It's what we think of and how we think of somebody else in our private world, within our mind, and our thoughts and our beliefs about other people. It matters because what you think of and how you view people privately will always come out publicly. Always. How we view people and how we judge them, even, no matter where they're at on the timeline, on wherever they are, even if they believe something differently than we do, if we dehumanize them or objectify them and see them as something other than human, that will come out. For some it's lust, for some it's hate, but it's always different. But you will act differently towards the people that you feel that way towards. And Jesus tells us to deal with it in an extreme way. Now, Jesus tells us to deal with it, and it's like, that's it, right? It's like dealing with, it's like this morning, my wife is on her way to work, and she has a couple of really big surgeries coming up, and she was feeling anxious, and she comes in, and she puts her hand on me, and she goes, I'm just really I'm in the middle of writing this exact part, by the way. And she goes, I'm just really worried about everything. And I felt like being Superman and saying, honey, just don't worry about anything. That solves all their problems, right? Guys, yeah, next time somebody tells you, hey, I'm feeling anxious about this, just say, just don't worry about it. Problem solved. You are their hero. No, the reality is if you're anxious about something, or if you're lusting after something, or if you're hating something, or whatever the issue is within our own hearts, the reality is you have to change what you're looking at. Do we understand? We can't just say, stop doing that. It's like, stop thinking about the big, giant red elephant in the corner of the room. What are you going to think about? I know where all your minds are at right now. Big red elephant in the corner of the room. The reality is we need something else to put our focus on, and Christ is trying to give us that and say, hey, look, I'm trying to heal you. I'm trying to give you something better to look at than that. There's an ideal out there, and this is why he gave us the book of the Song of Solomon. He's like, there's an ideal out there. And while some of us, many of us, whether we're married or not, may never reach the level that Song of Solomon gets to, but the reality is that there is an ideal that he desperately wants to have that with us. Sometimes when we're struggling, it's easy to say those things, but they're kind of theoretical. I heard somebody say once that a really helpful thing, when you're struggling with lust in particular, you view that person, it's Mother's Day, okay? View that person as someone else's mother, and would you want anybody to look at your mother like that? Someone looks at my mom like that, we're going to have words, okay? But not only that, this is my mom. I'd do anything for her. And when you realize that that is someone else's mother, that's someone else's sister, that's someone else's daughter, that is a child of the Most High God, whether male or female, wherever you're at, you see not just their potentiality, but their actual identity as a child of God. It helps, I'm telling you this. And it doesn't matter what's in our heart. Our primary identity, whatever we are attracted to now, falls under the committed relationship that we now have with Jesus Christ. Everything. Do I get everything what I want in life? No. And mostly, the reason I don't get everything I want in life isn't because I don't have the money for it. It's because I follow Jesus and I'm married. I'm serious. And you know what? It's the greatest joy of your life. To give up of yourself and to recognize that there is someone else that you put as more important than yourself, and that he did that for you. Because he wants this type of relationship with you. Our commitment is falling in love with someone and then building a structure of behavior around it so that moments of love, for moments where love falters. You understand? Why we have commandments, why we have things that we keep. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, right? And it's not a manipulative thing. If you grew up with a manipulative parent or a manipulative spouse, they're like, if you love me, you would do this. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, if you love me, this will be a natural part of what you actually want to do. And the reality is there's some moments where we just don't feel it. Where we just don't feel it because our emotions and our thoughts and everything like that, and even our desires are fleeting. They're momentary. And God's saying, I've got something so valuable for you that you will want it forever once you get a taste of it. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it talks about the fact that our body, he says, men, your body isn't your own. Women, your body isn't your own. It's for your spouse. It's for them. It's this act of giving up of our own desire, our own self, in order to serve somebody else. This is countercultural at its greatest thing. Our culture says you have to do everything for yourself. And I'm not telling you to throw your pearls to pigs, okay? There are people that will just walk all over you and abuse you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about within the context of a loving and committed relationship. Here's the thing, is if you have a really wonderful, healthy marriage, I will say this, I don't have children, so I can't quite understand the parent aspect of God, but I have learned about God more from my wife than any other person in this world. And the love that we share, in the way that we share it, because we have gotten healthy and we understand how to healthy relationship, and it's pointed me back to the idea of what Jesus actually did for me. When she comes home from a long day and she's tired and she's exhausted and she still asks, "What can I do for you?" There's no love like that. I don't know what else there is, but this is what Christ wants for every single one of us. He's like exhausted, he could be tired, all this stuff, and he's still there for you. It's a beautiful thing, and I think that this is even this book, whether we are married or not, or whatever, wherever our desires are at, he gives us the ideal here, and it points us to a relationship and a closer one with him. Let's have a word of prayer. Jesus, thank you for this intense, kind of crazy book of Song of Solomon, Lord. Things that we are uncomfortable with talking about, you are there putting it on full display, Lord. Thank you for the love you have for us. Thank you for creating desire. Thank you that we do have that, but Lord, sometimes our desires get messy, and you don't want that to be the case. Ultimately, Lord, we want our desire to be with you, and help us in our moments of struggle, help us in our moments of weakness, because ultimately we have faith and we trust that you have our best intentions in mind, that you actually want and can provide the very deepest things that our heart actually desires. Thank you for that promise, and I pray that you help our unbelief in times of struggle. In Jesus' name, amen.